Hey everybody, Mrs. Bianchi. What is the volume of the solid figure shown at the right? So I actually have it down here. And before you begin tackling this, you have to decide, how do I want to break this up? We have a couple options. One option is we can break it up with the blue rectangular prism on the left and the red rectangular prism on the right. We can break it up as extend that red rectangular prism on the bottom and shorten that blue one on the top. Or we can consider the idea of taking the whole thing if we had the whole rectangular prism. So I'm just going to try to do my best here to duplicate that. Might not be perfect, a little bit off, but you kind of get the idea. So you can pretend you have the entire rectangular prism and then cut out the whole, subtract out the whole. So I really think that this option here is probably going to be best. How would I find the volume of the blue figure? Volume of the blue figure, it's a rectangular prism. So we would be doing volume equals length times width times height. So let's take a screenshot of that and let's put it on another page so we have some room. And we'll explore doing it that way. All right, so here we have it. Let's even make it a little bit bigger. All right, so for the blue one, we're going to do volume equals length times width times height. Volume equals, we'll call this the length, we'll call this the width, and let's call this the height. And we'll write them as improper fractions. 6 is equal to 6 over 1. This is an improper fraction, would be something halves. 2 times 1 is 2, plus the one more mixed, that 3 halves. And this is the same number, so that's going to be put here as well. All right, so let's look for any kind of reducing opportunities that we have. Maybe with the 2 and the 6, we can divide by 2 and get 1, divide by 2 and get 3, and that seems to be about all we have. So what you're going to do from that point is you're going to go ahead and do 3 times 3 times 3 and come up with that number. 1 times 1 times 2 would be 2. Whatever number you get here, go ahead and divide it by 2. And that'll be the volume of the blue. Now what about the red? For the red, we're going to do volume equals length times width times height. Volume equals, all right, now this is where things get a little bit dicey, because this 5.5 is not talking about the length of this line right here. The 5.5 is talking about the length of the entire thing. But we do know that this piece up here, which I'm going to highlight in yellow, we do know that that piece is 1.5, which means this piece is 1.5, which means that this piece is 1.5. We can subtract out the 1.5 from 5.5, and that will give us the length of this piece right here that my mouse is hovering over. So let's do that. 5.5 minus 1.5. So a half minus a half gives us nothing. We can either put a 0 or not put anything. And then this minus this, you're going to put that value right here. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because you're going to figure that on your own. But you're going to put that value and you subtract right here. That will be the length of this red rectangular prism. Now the other dimensions, fortunately, are explicitly stated. So if we're calling not 5.5 the length, but what you get here the length, because remember 5.5 is the whole thing, we can use this as the width. And we already know that 1.5, we already did the work on that earlier, is equal to 3 halves. And the height is 1.5, which is the same value. Let's put that again, 3 halves. All right, so you're going to have some number here. Multiply that with this times this, and then you'll have the volume of the red prism. Now you won't be done, because you're going to take whatever you get when you divided this out, or this value, and you're going to add it to this value. When you add those two values together, you should end up getting one of the answer choices. In fact, let me move this out of the way so we can see. You'll end up getting one of these answer choices. Now, if you don't get one of those answer choices, then you might want to explore the idea of going back and trying some of the other approaches that we looked at to see if that gives you one of the answer choices, because perhaps you made a mistake. All right, so good luck finishing that up.